Namo. To talk about the extraordinary ability of the Buddha to teach.
Quello di cui parlerò questa sera sono le capacità straordinarie che aveva il Buddha di insegnare.
So I've no doubt he was a very charismatic person, but that would not necessarily make him a good teacher.
Era sicuramente, non ho alcun dubbio, che fosse una persona straordinariamente carismatica, ma questo di per sé non l'avrebbe reso un insegnante particolarmente abile.
So he had the ability to teach large groups, monastics, So I shall stop. Namo tassa. Namo tassa bhagavata. Self-awakened one. Even in my voice, I've not been talking for a while. It's all gone husky. Okay, so tonight we're going to have a look at this forgiveness. Most of you, I'm sure, have done exercises on this. So I'll just go through the basics and then we'll practice it. So I think there are two fundamental attitudes. Moves to all those qualities of love, compassion, generosity, etc. And forgiveness is the other one. That's dealing with all the dark side, all the guilt, the shame, the unforgivingness, all that sort of stuff. So with these two fundamental or basic attitudes, I think we can have a happy life. So the first thing to recognize, the first time to remind ourselves is that all the emotions we suffer around forgiving, trying to forgive somebody, being forgiven, asking for forgiveness and forgiving ourselves, all the emotional stuff, remember, is all self-made. So, you know, when somebody says something that is a bit nasty, our response is our response. They didn't cause that. So that's the first thing to remind ourselves, that all the stuff we're going to work with has been made by me. And the idea, of course, is to undermine them, and then they will transform naturally. So that's the other thing we have to remember. All negative states will eventually transform themselves to the opposite. Nothing is lost. Where there's hatred, there'll be love, and so on. And the final note on the...
So that goes back to the idea of impermanence. So states of being are subject to change. So if you're feeling unhappy, it won't last forever. There will be a time when you'll feel happy again. And it may be 10 seconds, 5 minutes, an hour, tomorrow, a week, a year, but it will happen. You cannot be unhappy forever. You cannot be happy forever either. So it is constantly subject to change, and all the different emotions are subject to that as well. So that's what he's saying basically.
It's for us. So forgiveness is for us. It's not for them. Which might sound a bit selfish, but they've also got the same problem with us, right? So whatever we're doing here now, asking for forgiveness, forgiving, etc., they also have their own problems. And when they're doing forgiveness practice, they're doing it just for themselves, right?
So forgiveness is interesting as well, because someone asks for forgiveness, right? Someone asks for forgiveness from you. But it is not something you offer to someone or give to someone. It is something which, it is something which you have to do for yourself. You have to forgive them. But to explain it, it's quite difficult, because it is something you have to do for yourself to forgive them, but they're not getting anything from you. It is all on you to come to terms with whatever they have done, and it is you forgiving them, but they don't get anything. It is all on you. If you see what I mean, it is not something you give them. When you forgive someone, you don't give them anything. What you do is you satisfy yourself that what they have done is not important to you anymore, to make you feel bad. So that is forgiveness, really.
So it's basically a practice for our own benefit. If the other person, to say, is affected by it, all well and good. So, for instance, if we apologise to somebody and they feel the heart to respond, that's good. You know, we've been a catalyst for their movement, their heart movement. But of course, they don't have to forgive. That's the bit.
So this is the other thing. When you offer an apology, what you're saying is, I'm sorry about whatever you've done that may have made them feel a different way or whatever. But it is not you giving them anything. It is you saying to yourself, I've done something, and I want to say I've done it, and want to make up for it in some way by offering my accountability and responsibility for those actions. And if they say that's fine or no problem or apology accepted or whatever, they are basically, forgiveness is kind of like a Venn diagram. You have to do it for yourself. You have to apologize. You have to forgive. You have to do it for yourself, and then the outward inverse of that happens, where the other person it's reciprocal. So once the other person has accepted it and you've offered it, it becomes reciprocal. It kind of flips round, and that is an apology and forgiveness. But it only happens when each person has done it independently, and not. It is not something which you throw away and you get back from the other person. It is something which happens internally, and then it manifests as a meeting of two minds. So it is quite interesting, forgiveness and apologies.
That's difficult to accept. The next thing is about attitudes. So these are sankharas. Most of you know that word, sankhara. It's normally translated as volitional conditions, which doesn't mean very much. But it's basically the choices we make, the habits we have, which are conditioned and conditioning. That's the important thing. So these are energetic conditionings, yeah? And the way I think of them is like they're balloons of particular types of reactivity. So I might, for instance, be very annoyed when people are late, okay? So every time somebody's late, I get irritated, right? And I don't look at it, I don't do anything about it. So this balloon of irritation around people being late grows and grows and grows. And then one day, somebody's too late, and it's like a pin touches this balloon, and all this irritation and anger just burst out. And that's where you get this rage, this road rage, and all the stuff we hear about. So what we're doing is we're letting the steam, we're letting the bad air out of that balloon.
So this is interesting as well. So there's a concept of tolerance and loving outwardly and sharing joy and happiness with everyone in Buddhism, but tolerance is an interesting concept, because tolerance is not infinite. So love potentially is infinite, in the sense that you can keep loving something your whole life, and as far as we're concerned, that is as infinite as one life can get, as the entire life. But tolerance cannot last a lifetime, right? If you think about it, if you're tolerating irritation there's a physical limit as to how much you will tolerate, and this applies to everyone, from animals to babies to men, women, children, whatever. Right? Once you reach a tolerance point, you lose it. You explode. So this is what he's saying, and not everything is tolerable for long periods of time. So what is tolerable for one person may not be the same for the other, and he calls it conditioning, which is your propensity to tolerate. Right? It is something which annoys you, but you manage to tolerate it for a certain amount of time, and it may be that when you lose the tolerance, the person that has caused you to do that has done it in a trivial way, in a marginal way, at being 5 minutes late, not 24 hours late or 48 hours late, right? So, but that person may be the first time they've encountered you, and they're 30 seconds late, and you go absolutely fucking tits at them, right? So, but they're not aware of the history that you've been tolerating someone standing you up on dates for the last 40 years, right? So this is also an information asymmetry problem, where the person you may blow your fuse at has no idea why that's happened, and there's a bit of unfairness about it. But this is one of the problems of life. You do not know anything about the person you're meeting, even if you've known them your whole life, because they may have been tolerating you for their whole life, and they blow their fuse. So it is really interesting whether you should tolerate at all, whether you should tolerate anything for any amount of time, or you should just be intolerant and say this is unacceptable the first time it happens, and keep saying that until it stops happening. And then you don't have this situation where you hold it in, you resent it, you tolerate it for years or minutes or days or hours or whatever. You've just dealt with it, You've just dealt with the problem. You're late, don't be late again. That person then knows. And once everyone knows, who knows you, that you don't like that, like the chances of you needing to blow your fuse about someone being late, or having to tolerate that happening over and over again, is much less. So this idea of conditioning yourself to tolerate because you are irritated, well, you deserve the right not to be irritated, right? So why should you tolerate being irritated? So this is one of the things in Buddhism. You have to be tolerant and of other people's ignorance, and the ignorance that you have towards the reality of the world, but you cannot live in delusion that you are not being irritated. That is the flip side of the coin. So let's see what he says. Let's continue.
Okay, so there are three subjects, obviously. We have to make the ability to ask for forgiveness easy for ourselves, right? It's against our pride, but we have to make it easy. And then we have to ask for forgiveness. That's also something we don't like doing. And then finally, we've got to forgive ourselves, which is often the most difficult. Now, the process is we remember something, and we have an event. And that event carries with it all the loadings that we put on it, the hurt, the anger, etc. So the event comes to mind. Now, we have to be careful, really careful, it doesn't shoot off into a fantasy. Once we're up there in the clouds fantasizing, whether we like it or not, we're making things worse, right? Whatever that emotion is being exercised and made worse by storytelling. So as soon as we see that happening, we just come back. And we try to hold that frame fairly still. And while we're doing that, the attention, of course, is drawn to what's coming from the heart. So what might come up is hurt. See, somebody said something, so hurt. And the next protocol is how we're relating to this hurt. Now, we don't like to accept that because it's against our pride. So we have to allow that aversion, that not wanting, to disappear until we can allow the heart to express its hurt completely, right? That's the healing process. So we're using this little image that we've got, this event, to get in touch with the hurt, right? And that hurt.
So this is what I was saying before. So if someone hurts you, unless you express it, unless you say, I have been hurt, that you have hurt me in this way, you cannot move on from it. And whether the other person might not even be aware that they have hurt you, right? So unless you tell them, they don't know. The only people that know they hurt you are people that do it on purpose to hurt you because they enjoy it, or because for some reason they want to, or they intended to hurt you, right? And those people, like, you don't want them in your life. Why would you want someone in your life that intentionally hurts you? It is bizarre. So they hide the fact that they hurt you intentionally by accepting by asking for forgiveness, or listening to your expression of hurt, but ignoring it because they want to do it again. So this is why people get trapped in bad relationships, is people lie to them about wanting to not hurt them, and pretending to listen or change the fact that they're not going to hurt them in the future. And it is utter bullshit. So these people also you don't want in your life.
Of course, is connected to all the hurts that we have. Just like the anger in that balloon is connected to all the other angers. And as we let out one little bit of anger, everything else is affected, right? So it's systemic. Everything we do has a systemic effect on our own hearts and minds. Now, when we're doing this, by the way, if as you come, say, to forgive somebody, you can't do it, fine. You don't worry about that at all. You just keep working on the hurt, and then eventually the heart softens and you can do it.
So this is what they're saying. The forgiveness comes from yourself. You have to come to terms with whatever it is that has hurt you, and accept it, or deal with it, or remove it from your life. Or you have to take action, right, to remove this feeling of hurt, so that at the point at which someone comes to you and says sorry, or can you forgive me, or makes it up to you, genuinely makes it up to you, you're in a position to say, yes, that is fine, I accept it, let's move on with our lives. But if you have not come to terms with it yourself, and someone says sorry, you will not be willing to accept that apology. You know, you're not ready for it. And whether it is genuinely intended or not, it is a waste of time, because you are not ready to forgive. So, you know, it's a forgiveness cannot be provided unless it is dealt with. The cause of that need for forgiveness is dealt with. So if that cause has not been dealt with, you cannot forgive. And there are many people and many situations where the crime or whatever is so heinous that in order to come to terms with it, it takes a long time, and there may not be enough time available for that to happen. Plus, if it cannot be, what's the word, addressed by the person, or it cannot be fixed by the person that caused it, maybe they die, or maybe they move away, or maybe you just never know, then it is something which you cannot deal with. And this is the closure issue, which is you can never resolve it, and it's always something that lingers and holds you back in life. Because you always think about it as an unresolved, niggly thing or person or situation that just never just hangs around like a bad smell. And it is unfortunate that many of these situations exist in all kinds of facets of life, from personal to geopolitical kind of things. And there's no resolution, or maybe multi-generational resolution.
Okay, and we always start with a bit of metta, just to warm the heart up a bit, and then we ask for forgiveness, we forgive others, and then we forgive ourselves.
So metta in Buddhism is not the bullshit from Facebook, right? This is an expression of love towards other people, no matter who they are or what they have done, and it is quite a difficult concept, especially when dealing with these situations I spoke to you about before, where you have not resolved the hurt enough to be able to offer forgiveness, let alone love, to someone. And it takes a great deal of personal work to offer this love, and this is the end result, and the starting point of forgiveness is this metta of it is kind of like accepting and dealing with whatever may have caused you a problem, and eradicating it to such an extent that the person or thing that caused it to you is offered love instead of anger. It is not an easy thing. It is one of the hardest things in Buddhism to offer this to someone, and it is like the slab of beef you ate, chopping its other leg off to offer you some more. It is really a difficult concept, difficult thing to do for people, and people that master it are genuinely the nicest people on the planet.
Now, when we're asking for forgiveness, the first thing that might come up is the reason why the person did it. Okay, and so you've got to be aware of that relationship you have to the person. But basically, you're looking at the hurt, and when that passes, perhaps the desire of revenge, and you have to let that go too.
And one of the things is with what you was mentioning revenge there. That is the exact opposite of metta, right? It is hurt on top of hurt, right? And once you start having revenge as an option, well, that situation will never get resolved. It will escalate forever into a clusterfuck beyond all clusterfucks, right? Because it will ruin your life, it will ruin the other person's life, and at every scale, it will never ever be resolved. And once a tit for tat situation, an eye for an eye situation occurs, it is basically game over for resolving it. And the more people involved in that, the more impossible it is. And you can see it in the Middle East now, or ever, or always, that like, how do you resolve that? It is multi-generational, multi-denominational, multi-racial, multi-national, global situation. It needs global solution, but on every scale, at every level, it is happening everywhere. And at some point, the entire human race will self-destruct, because it is easier to lie down and go to sleep and die than to resolve this. And it'll be someone else killing you, not you killing yourself. And there is no resolution to that when there's two people left on the planet, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm just scrolling through here. I seem to have lost something here. Oh, yeah. Okay, when it comes to forgiving, that's the next bit we're doing. Again, there's that hardness that's in the heart. It doesn't want to forgive. And there's a story here. When the Islamist blew himself up in London, this is going back a bit, there was an Anglican priest left the order saying she couldn't carry out the ministry because she couldn't forgive the bomber who'd killed her daughter. But it's actually never a case of can't, it's a case of won't. And let's just hope that distraught mother has found a way eventually to open up her heart. And of course, if we look around the world at this moment, there must be a lot of mothers who are utterly distraught.
But it's not a case of opening up the heart. This is the thing. You cannot forgive something that is unresolved. There has to be some resolution. There has to be some justice. There has to be some move from the other party to make up for what they've done, right? Without that, some genuine remorse at least, or some genuinely good, genuinely intentioned move to for reparations. That's the word I'm looking for. And without that, you cannot resolve it. You know, there's no action that you can take to come to terms with this, apart from this very difficult road of metta, of coming to terms with it through acceptance, and then offering a form of forgiveness without any action being taken to provide any reparation for what has happened to you. And once you lose a child or something, it is really a very difficult thing to forgive someone that murdered your child, especially one that shows no remorse or no. And the court system offers things like money and compensation, proceeds of crime act and stuff, but money cannot make up for that. You know, there's no amount of money that can bring your child back, or your mum back, or your dog back, you know, or your cat. And these things have more, and these people and creatures have more than anyone should be able to take away. If someone takes away from you, it cannot be replaced. It is infinitely more valuable than anything that person can provide in reparations. So why it was done in the first place, when it is that valuable to you, especially if it's that easy to remove it from your life by running it over, stabbing it, whatever, why anyone would do this to anyone else is beyond my comprehension. Why would you do that to anything? Because if it happened to you, you would be in this position of not being able to come to terms with it or forgive. So why would you do that to anyone? So this is what I don't understand about a lot of these things. Is it's not the eye for an eye. It is, if I don't like it being done to myself, why the fuck would you do it to other people?
what's happened to their children, young and old. Yeah? But then you get a story like the mother who went to see her son's murderer and finally took him home when he was let out of prison and treated him like her son. So we have to remember that to forgive somebody is not trying to forget something. That's, of course, as we know, is suppressive. We're just trying to release the emotional charge.
It's potentially the other thing where she's trying to get a revenge on that person at some point.
What they do. But that's not so. That's just wrong feeling. We're sort of letting them off. But obviously, where amends and compensation is needed, definitely we should ask for it, and especially where there's justice. Where we need justice for grievous bodily harm, rape, all that dreadful stuff, which I hope none of you suffered from. But then, of course, you have to seek justice, but not with that anger, not with that desire for vengeance. And of course, sometimes you have to stay away from people who harmed us. You have to protect yourself. That's not a problem. And then finally, forgiving ourselves. So forgiving ourselves, there are two contemplations that are really helpful. First one is dependent origination. So remember, in dependent origination, we start off with avijja, this ignorance, which produces a delusive idea about the world. And it's really based along the idea of a self. And we're trying.
So one of the things about forgiving yourself is you have to have done something wrong to yourself, right? And this is, again, something which I don't really comprehend, is if you're doing something and it affects only you, it is your choice, right? If I choose to eat something and I go, oh, it's a bit of dodgy cheese, I'll just give it a go, and I become ill. There's nothing to forgive. It is action and consequence. You've done something. It has only affected you. It is your choice. It is your decision, and you don't need to forgive yourself for anything, for being ill or being sick or being fat or being thin or whatever. It is your choice. So anything that you do which is your choice, which affects yourself, whether it's spending money or being in debt or getting drunk or having a hangover or breaking your dry January or whatever, there's no forgiveness involved. It is you have to be like I made a decision. These are the consequences. This is what's happened. There's nothing to forgive. There's no guilt. There's no nothing. It is just your decision. So what do you need to forgive yourself for? Nothing. That you have decided to do yourself. If the thing you've done affects someone else, that is the whole other thing of forgiveness that we were talking about. Then you have to do this reciprocal thing with someone else to create a sense of forgiveness. And that is something you have to come to terms with what you've done. The other person has to come to terms with what you've done to them. And then it reciprocates into forgiveness, mutual forgiveness, right? And, me eating a cream bun and getting fat, well, there's nothing to forgive. There's no guilt there.
Seek happiness in the world, and we do it in this way that creates suffering. And as we practice, we can see the cause, the psychological cause of that, which is the desire, the wrong desire, and the fact that we're holding on to things which are impermanent. It doesn't make sense. And eventually, to undermine that whole concept of a self we have, it's a feeling concept. It's not just a head.
So this is the other issue I have with a lot of religion and even the Buddhism to a greater or lesser extent, is this idea of wrong behavior, right? There clearly is right behavior and wrong behavior. Okay, so it is objectively true, because if it is wrong behavior, everyone is affected by it badly, regardless, right? So certain things like lying is wrong behavior, because even though everyone can do it, there's generally no good consequence that comes out of it, right? And you may say, oh, right, there are different levels of lie. Yes, that is the whole point I'm trying to make. If the situation requires you to lie, right, to get a better outcome for yourself, then that is inherently a wrong situation, right? If you have to, if you're hungover and you have to go to work and you lie to your boss or whatever, say, I've got a tummy bug, okay? That is inherently a wrong situation, because you should be able to say to your boss, mate, I'm hungover because we went out last night or whatever it was, and I just need to drink some full fat Coke and have a fry up because like I'm not productive at work today. Because the alternative is you come into work, you struggle and you do fuck all, or you have to like pretend you shat your pants or whatever, and then next time when you actually do shit your pants, you can't use that excuse because you went, all right, I was hungover last time. Now after what do I do? Do I have to say I'm hungover now? So you know what I mean? So the situation, the societal situation is bullshit. Because you can't just say to your boss, mate, I'm fucking hungover. Can I just like work extra on Saturday or whatever? Which would be a reasonable thing to do. But this is the thing. Lies are normalized. Lies are acceptable. There's greater or lesser lies, and everyone lies, and it's seen as a normal thing. But it is inherently wrong. Nothing good comes out of lying, because false information is provided, and false or wrong information that's provided in any context is a bad thing. What height are we flying at, pilot? Oh, it is 37,000 feet. Is it? What the fuck is this fucking mountain doing here then, mate? You know what I mean? There's no good time to provide wrong information. This is bullshit. You cannot make a good decision on bad information, right? So, this is what I mean about wrong and right. There's certain things that are universally wrong and societally accepted, but this is not a good thing. Because the more wrong things that are societally accepted, the more fucked up the world gets. The more wrong becomes right. There's no like, oh, this is so wrong, it's right. It's bullshit. It's wrong, it's wrong.
And what this does is, of course, it takes us towards wisdom. So one movement is from ignorance, delusion, and then the process of insight, which takes us to wisdom. From the heart's point of view, just as the delusion, we cannot be blamed for the delusion. The ignorance isn't culpable. So from the heart's point of view, we never meant to do any harm. The heart has always been pure in its intentions. But because of this delusion, it leads itself to being acquisitive, to being aversive, to being fearful, and so on. So all these, of course, have produced unwholesome actions. And then there's the consequence of that, which we're dealing with now, or forgivingness business. And when all that's purified, we end up with the pure heart, right? So that's the process. From a sort of pure heart through all this negativity, we work with it, and it's basically it's the sweat when it comes to the spiritual practice.
So this is the other thing. So this goes along with the wrong action, or whatever. It's this wholesome action, the idea of wholesome action, right? Some actions are clearly wholesome. It's, like eating well and doing exercise and this kind of thing. But they can also be unwholesome, right? You can eat a vegan diet and be deficient in minerals and amino acids and this kind of thing. You can eat too little that you basically starve to death or have an eating disorder. You can go too much to the gym, injure yourself, and be never able to go to the gym again. So everything is wholesome in moderation, right? You can be an alcoholic, or you can just drink a glass of wine once or twice a week, right? You're not an alcoholic. You're a regular drinker, but you're not an alcoholic. And there's nothing unwholesome about drinking. There's nothing unwholesome about even smoking or whatever. It is something which if it only affects you, and you enjoy doing it, it is wholesome. But when it affects other people, then it is not then it is unwholesome. If you smoke and set off the fire alarms every 5 minutes, evacuating the fucking building, that is unwholesome in terms of smoking. So for me, wholesomeness is whether it benefits you, whether it is a detriment to others. If it's a detriment to yourself, well, that is your problem. It is your decision. There's no guilt about it. It is wholesome. But if you have to steal to buy cigarettes, or if you have to lie to get money, or you have to shoplift or whatever, it is unwholesome because it affects someone else. Nothing inherently wrong with smoking or drinking or doing anything. But when it affects other people, that is when there's a problem. When people have to call an intervention on you, then it is a problem because you've affected other people through your unwholesome behavior, right? You get cancer and then someone has to cure you or chop it out of you. That is unwholesome then. But if you get cancer, you just go, fuck you, mate. I'm going to die here in pain until I die. No one gives a shit, mate. You do whatever you want. It is wholesome. You wanted to die, you got cancer, you accepted it, and you're dying, and you're dead. That is perfectly wholesome. That is your choice, your consequence. You've accepted it. There's nothing unwholesome about that.
The other bit's easy. The insight's not a problem, is it? It's just that, all the gunge in the heart that we're trying to get rid of. And that leads us to purity, immaculacy, back to purity and immaculacy. So the Buddha talks about it like, dirt that gets on a cloth, and when you wash it, the cloth goes back to its original loveliness.
This is, again, somewhat hyperbole. It is not. A cloth is clean the first time. It gets dirty, you wash it, it is not as clean. You know what I mean? So, like, a baby is pure human being. But once sullied, a child, an adult, an animal, whatever, you cannot wash it clean. It's better not to fuck up that person or that thing or that whatever it is. Once you've broken something, you cannot mend it. You cannot wash it, you cannot clean it, you cannot fix it. It is fucked. Once you've changed the battery in your iPhone, it is no longer an iPhone. It has a different battery in it. It may work as an iPhone, but it is not the original iPhone you started out with from manufacturer. So if you want to extend the life of your iPhone, you change the battery, that is fine. You accept the limitations of that. And the iPhone analogy is getting a bit thin here, but if you want a fully working factory fresh iPhone, you have to buy a new one at considerable expense.
So that's the projection that we're on. That's what we're doing. And the other one is about karma. So that's pretty. At its simplest equation, you do something which is harmful, some harm will come of it. You never know what, right? And remember that the harm, if it's outwardly through what we speak and what we do, you don't know what the effect will be. It goes into a matrix of relationships. And
so this is the other thing. So this one goes back to the forgiveness and all that kind of stuff. The easiest way to avoid harm coming to yourself through karma is to not do harm that causes other people to feel harm. Harm to yourself, if you cut yourself or that is for you to deal with, you feel the pain, you have to heal, your hand is out of action, you can't play Xbox or whatever because you cut your finger, you'll be more careful in future. That is all on you. But you cut someone else, well, there's no end to the consequence from that. It could be any level of consequence for the rest of your life. there's no resolving that.
Same happens to us when we do something. Every time we say something or do anything, whether it's good or bad, it affects the whole. It's a systemic effect inside us, right? It affects the whole psychology in some way or other. So now the bit that I found really relieving was that when we do something wrong, there is a karmic response to it. There'll be something comes back to us, and that's all we have to suffer. All the business about punishment and the way we talk to ourselves, and the recrimination, the self-recrimination, the anguish, and all that.
Well, the anguish and the recriminations could snowball. It could just stretch out into a web that becomes this clusterfuck that is the Middle East, because one clown did something to another person who didn't deserve it. And it might be something trivial, like disrespecting them or ignoring them or treating them in a way that was unjust. But that's a snowball into a complete clusterfuck that is multi-generational.
Not necessary. All that's necessary is to receive the consequence of unwholesome action.
And this is the thing, when you deal with other people, there are consequences. If you accept those consequences, as in like if you root someone, you expect them to be hostile to you in future, that is fine. But there's also the inverse of that, which is why have you needed to be rude to someone? What has caused you to need to be rude to someone? So you being rude may actually be them being rude to you. And they may be so, indoctrined or ingrained that they don't even realize they're being rude to you because they know nothing about you. So, when someone says X so-and-so is rude, my first response is, why are they rude? Why are they rude to you? Why did you think they were rude? What did you do to elicit a rude response? And it goes back to that forgiveness thing. It is something which, if the other person is not aware of it, or they're intentionally, hiding it or lying about it or doing the wrong behavior, then you don't want those people in your life. But at some point, there's limits to how many people you can extract from your life, right? Once you removed everyone, you're on your own. And that's no fun. So we have going back to the tolerance, we have a tolerance for people that are rude to us. Because the alternative is you have no one. And a little bit of rudeness is acceptable, but a lot of no one is not acceptable.
Just to receive it with patience and bear with it until it also will dry up, pass away. So that's an interesting reflection, I think, on karma. So don't feed the critic. That's the big thing. Okay. So we'll do the practice. We'll do the practice together. And then I'm going to put what is actually a written piece here as a PDF on the website with this video, so that if you want, you can download it and just look at it and use it. Yeah. Okay, so we can begin our practice by just sitting quietly.
Right. So that was just a talk on forgiveness and my thoughts on it. And there's not many people in this life, but I will upload it and put a link into this discourse or this Dana talk, and you can have a deeper think about it if you so wish. Right. Cheers. Thanks.